He's too slow. Giant Stadium, New Jersey, August 1984. Born in the USA Tour. The tour manager's voice cut through the backstage chaos of Giant Stadium, where Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA Tour was 2 hours from showtime. 78,000 fans were filing into the stadium, the biggest tour of 1984. The biggest tour Bruce Springsteen had ever done. And the tour manager, clipboard in hand, headset on, stressed from managing a production this massive, was pointing at Tommy Sullivan. Tommy was 38 years old, though he looked older, gray already showing in his dark hair, lines around his eyes deeper than they should be for someone not yet 40, loading amplifiers onto the stage with careful, methodical movements, grip the handles, lift with legs not back, place precisely, check stability, move to next piece. "We need younger crew," the manager continued, talking to his assistant stage manager. "Tommy's been here 3 weeks, good guy, respectful, works hard, but he moves like an old man. Every load takes him twice as long as the young guys. For a tour this big, 80 shows, sold out everywhere, we need speed, we need efficiency." The assistant nodded. "You want me to let him go?" "After tonight's show. Pay him for the week, give him a good recommendation. But yeah, we need to replace him." Tommy heard it all. He was 15 feet away, coiling cable, but his hearing was sharp, trained sharp from 2 years in the jungle, where hearing something before you saw it meant the difference between living and dying. He'd heard it before, at every job, construction sites in Newark, warehouse work in Elizabeth, loading docks in Jersey City, all was the same, too slow, too careful, too old. He was 38, but Tommy just kept working. Coiled the cable properly, hung it on the rack, moved to the next task. No reaction, no argument. Arguments didn't help, they never did. 20 feet away, stage right, Bruce Springsteen stood with his acoustic guitar, running through a sound check, wearing faded jeans and a black t-shirt, sweat already starting, despite the evening cool. He was 34 years old, at the absolute peak of his career. Born in the USA was #1. The album had sold 15 million copies. Every show was sold out. He was on the cover of Time and Newsweek simultaneously, and he'd just overheard his tour manager firing a roadie for being too slow. But something about Tommy bothered Bruce. Not the speed of his work, something else. The way Tommy moved, economical, precise, checking his surroundings constantly. The way his eyes scanned the backstage area every few seconds. Exits, people, equipment, threats. The way he'd flinched earlier when a speaker cabinet dropped with a loud bang, ducking instinctively before catching himself. Bruce knew that behavior. He'd researched it for Born in the USA. He'd read books about Vietnam, talked to veterans at VA hospitals, watched documentaries. He'd learned about PTSD before most of America knew the term, and Tommy Sullivan had all the signs. After the tour manager walked away, Bruce set down his guitar and walked directly to Tommy. "Hey, brother," Bruce said, his voice friendly, genuine. "What's your name?" Tommy turned, surprised. "Tommy Sullivan, Mr. Springsteen. It's an honor working your tour, sir." "Just Bruce. How long you been doing stage work, Tommy?" 3 weeks here. Best job I've had in a long time." Bruce noticed Tommy's hands, scarred, calloused, the hands of someone who'd done hard labor his whole life. "What did you do before this?" "Whatever I could find, sir. Warehouse work, mostly. Construction when I could get it. Haven't had steady work in—" He paused. "In a while." Bruce studied Tommy's face, the lines, the gray hair, the eyes that didn't quite match the rest of him, like they'd seen more than 38 years should see. "Tommy, can I ask you something personal?" "Yes, sir." "You served, didn't you?" "Military?" Tommy's entire body language changed. Not defensive, just careful. "Yes, sir. How'd you know?" "The way you move, the way you watch the room. I've been learning about it. For the songs." Bruce paused. "Vietnam?" Long silence. Then, "Yes, sir. 1969 to 1971, U.S. Army, 101st Airborne Division, infantry." The backstage chaos continued around them, crew shouting, equipment moving, music playing. But for Bruce, everything else disappeared. "You're a Vietnam vet." "Yes, sir." "And you're working as a roadie on my tour, where I'm singing about Vietnam vets every single night." Tommy looked down. "Yes, sir. It's a good job. I needed the work." "My wife?" He stopped himself. "I needed the work." Bruce's mind was racing. He'd written Born in the USA about a fictional Vietnam veteran, a working-class kid from a dead town sent to fight, coming home to nothing. A song about betrayal, abandonment, the gap between what America promised and what it delivered. And standing in front of him was the real version. "Tommy," Bruce said quietly, "we need to talk. After sound check, don't go anywhere. Find me." "That's not a request." "Sir, if this is about the tour manager saying I'm too slow..." "It's not about that. It's about something more important. Find me, okay?" Tommy nodded. "Yes, sir." Flashback, March 1970, Thua Thien Province, South Vietnam. 14 years earlier, Tommy Sullivan was a very different person. Private first class. Tommy Sullivan, 24 years old, crouched in elephant grass near Fire Support Base Ripcord in the A Shau Valley, Vietnam. It was 0300 hours. Dark, hot, humid. The jungle alive with sounds that could be animals or could be enemy soldiers. Tommy had been in country for 8 months. 101st Airborne Division, 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment, the Rakkasans. They called them the Screaming Eagles. The patch on his shoulder showed an eagle's head, screaming. He'd arrived in Vietnam in July 1969, 19 years old, from Sayreville, New Jersey. Working-class town 25 miles south of Newark, steel mills, chemical plants, working people, dead-end jobs unless you got out. The Army was supposed to be his way out. Instead, it was a way into hell. The A Shau Valley was one of the worst places in Vietnam. Heavy jungle canopy, mountains. The Ho Chi Minh Trail running through it, the main supply route for North Vietnamese forces. American forces had been trying to cut that trail for years. Dying, trying. Tommy's platoon was on patrol, 26 men moving through jungle so thick you could barely see 10 feet ahead, looking for enemy positions, looking for trouble. They found it. The ambush hit at 0315, NVA North Vietnamese Army regulars, hidden in prepared positions, opening fire with AK-47s and RPGs. The sound was deafening. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness. Trees exploded from rocket impacts. Tommy's training took over. He hit the ground, returned fire, moved to cover. Around him, men were screaming, some giving orders, some wounded, some dying. The firefight lasted 4 hours. When dawn came and the NVA pulled back, Tommy's platoon had 7 KIA killed in action and 14 wounded. More than half the platoon. Tommy had taken shrapnel in his left leg and a right shoulder. Not life-threatening, but painful. Bleeding. The medevac helicopters came at sunrise, Hueys dropping into a cleared LZ under sporadic fire, loading the wounded, leaving the dead wrapped in ponchos for the next extraction. Tommy refused evacuation. "I can still fight," he told the medic. The medic bandaged him, shot him full of morphine, and Tommy went back on patrol the next day. He spent 14 more months in Vietnam, dozens more firefights, lost count of how many friends died, lost count of how many times he should have died, but didn't. And every day they sprayed Agent Orange, the chemical defoliant that killed jungle vegetation, but also, they were learning, killed the soldiers who breathed it. When Tommy came home in April 1971, he was 25 years old. He'd seen more death than most people see in a lifetime. He had shrapnel scars, nightmares, and a cough that wouldn't go away. And America didn't want to hear about it. Back to Giants Stadium, August 1984. 2 hours after the sound check, after the show, after 78,000 fans screamed along to Born in the USA, after Bruce had given everything on stage for 3 hours, Tommy was breaking down equipment when Bruce found him. "Tommy, my dressing room, now." Tommy followed Bruce through the backstage maze to a small room with a couch, a mirror, guitars leaning against the wall. Bruce gestured to the couch. "Sit." Tommy sat. Bruce pulled up a chair, sat facing him directly. "Talk to me, Tommy. Tell me your story, not the resume version, the real version." Tommy hesitated. "Mr. Springsteen, I don't want to take up your time." "Bruce, and you're not taking up my time. I need to hear this. I wrote a song about you. I need to know if I got it right." So Tommy told him. He told Bruce about Sayreville, New Jersey, the steel mills closing, the chemical plants laying off, no future for a working-class kid with a high school diploma. About getting drafted in 1969, 19 years old, thinking it was patriotic duty. He told him about Vietnam, the A Shau Valley, fire support base ripcord, the ambushes, the firefights. The friends who died, PFC Danny Martinez, shot through the head, dead before he hit the ground. Sergeant Mike Chen stepped on a mine, bled out in Tommy's arms. Corporal James Wright, malaria and infection, medevac, too late. He told him about coming home in 1971 to a country that didn't want him, protesters calling him baby killer, job applications asking if he was Vietnam veteran, then suddenly no positions available. Employers saying, "We prefer younger candidates," even though Tommy was only 25. He told him about the nightmares, the same firefight replaying every night, watching Danny Martinez die over and over. About the hypervigilance, checking exits everywhere, flinching at loud noises, unable to relax even in his own home. He told him about his wife Linda, met her in 1972, married in 1973, the only person who understood, who stayed when everyone else left. About her getting sick, cancer, the doctor said, possibly from Agent Orange exposure. She'd visited him at base camp, been around the chemicals. About the medical bills that Medicare didn't cover. He told him about losing jobs, construction companies saying he was too careful on job sites, warehouse supervisors saying he was too slow, employers worried about his health, his coughing, his attitude. He told him about the homeless period, 2 years living in his car, 1978 to 1980, after they lost their apartment. About standing in VA lines for benefits that never came. About trying to explain PTSD to bureaucrats who'd never heard the term. And he told him about the roadie job, the best job he'd had in 10 years, $12 an hour, enough to pay rent and Linda's medications, enough to eat, enough to survive. "And now," Tommy said, voice breaking, "I'm too slow, too old. Your tour manager's going to fire me tonight, and I don't know what I'm going to do." Bruce was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "Tommy, do you know what Born in the USA is about?" "Yeah, Vietnam vets, guys like me." "It's about betrayal, Tommy. It's about America sending working-class kids to war and then abandoning them when they come home. It's about the gap between what we promise and what we deliver." Bruce leaned forward. "And I wrote it from research, from books, from documentaries, but you lived it. You are that song." "I know," Tommy said quietly. "Every time I hear it on the radio, it's like—" He stopped. "It's my life, my whole life." Bruce stood up, paced the small room. "Here's what's going to happen. First, you're not getting fired. You're staying on this tour, full-time, for as long as you want, and we're doubling your pay." "Sir, I can't." "Second, tomorrow night, I'm bringing you on stage. You're going to stand there while I sing Born in the USA. 78,000 people are going to see you, and I'm going to tell them your story." Tommy's eyes filled with tears. "I don't need—" "Third, when this tour is over, we're going to figure out what you need. Medical help, benefits, support, whatever it takes. Because you did what your country asked, and your country owes you." Bruce sat back down, put his hand on Tommy's shoulder. "You're not too slow, brother. You're not too old. You're a warrior who served with honor, and it's time someone saw that." The next night, Giants Stadium, Second show, 78,000 fans, stadium lights blazing, the E Street Band launching into Born in the USA, that thundering drum intro, the primal scream of Bruce's voice, Born in the USA, and standing stage right, visible to everyone, wearing his old Army jacket with the 101st Airborne patch, Tommy Sullivan. Bruce sang the first verse, then stopped the band. 78,000 people went quiet. "I want to introduce you to someone," Bruce said into the microphone, his voice echoing through Giant Stadium. "This is Tommy Sullivan. He's from Sayreville, New Jersey, working-class town. In 1969, he got drafted. He was 19 years old. They sent him to Vietnam. 101st Airborne Infantry. He spent 2 years in the jungle. He saw his friends die. He got wounded. He breathed Agent Orange. He did everything his country asked." The stadium was silent, attentive. And when he came home, America forgot him, couldn't find work, ended up homeless, struggled for 14 years just to survive, until 3 weeks ago when he got hired as a roadie on this tour for $12 an hour. Bruce paused. Let that sink in. This song, Born in the USA, I wrote it about guys like Tommy, but I'd never met the real thing until yesterday. And let me tell you something. We owe these men. We owe them everything. They went where we sent them. They did what we asked. And they deserve better than what we gave them. The stadium erupted. 78,000 people on their feet, applauding, screaming, some crying. Bruce turned to Tommy. "This one's for you, brother." And the E Street Band launched back into the song. Bruce singing with everything he had. Tommy standing on that stage, tears streaming down his face. Finally, visible. 1985, 2016, The Friendship. Tommy Sullivan stayed with the Born in the USA tour for the full run. 80 shows, 18 months. Bruce doubled his pay, then tripled it. But more than money, Bruce gave Tommy something more valuable: purpose. After the tour, Bruce hired Tommy full-time as a crew liaison, working with other veterans Bruce hired for tours, coordinating support, connecting them with VA resources. Tommy became the point person for Springsteen's veteran outreach programs. They became friends, real friends. Bruce would call Tommy before writing songs about working-class struggle, asking, "Does this feel true?" Tommy would give honest feedback. "That line's bullshit, Bruce. Nobody talks like that." And Bruce would rewrite it. In 1990, when Linda Sullivan's cancer came back, terminal this time, Bruce paid for every treatment that insurance wouldn't cover. When she died in 1992, Bruce attended the funeral, sat with Tommy for hours afterward, just being present. In 1995, Tommy remarried a woman named Sarah he'd met at a veteran support group. Bruce and Patty Cialfa attended the wedding. Bruce performed at the reception, acoustic guitar, singing Thunder Road for Tommy and Sarah's first dance. And every year, on March 29th, the anniversary of Tommy's worst firefight in Vietnam, Bruce would call. Just to check in, just to say, "I'm thinking about you today, brother." May 2016, Vietnam Veterans Memorial, Washington, D.C. Tommy Sullivan was 70 years old when he stood at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial on a warm May morning. Bruce Springsteen stood beside him, both men in their 70s now, both weathered by decades of life. They were there for a ceremony. Bruce had donated $2 million to a new VA program for Agent Orange treatment, and Tommy had been invited to speak. Standing at that black granite wall, looking at the 58,000-plus names of the dead, Tommy said quietly, "I see their faces, Bruce, every one of them. Danny Martinez, Mike Chen, James Wright, all of them." Bruce put his hand on Tommy's shoulder. "They'd be proud of you, brother. What you became, how you helped other vets. They'd be proud." Tommy looked at Bruce. "You saved my life, you know, that night at Giant Stadium. August, 1984. I was 2 weeks from being homeless again, 2 weeks from giving up, and you saw me." "No," Bruce said firmly. "You saved yourself. You survived Vietnam. You survived coming home. You survived 14 years of hell. I just gave you a microphone." They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the names on the wall. "You know what the crazy thing is?" Tommy said. "All those years I thought the song was about anger. Born in the USA. I thought it was angry at America." "It is," Bruce said. "But it's also about love," Tommy continued. "Love for the country that sent us, love for the brothers who didn't come home, love for the people who kept fighting even when nobody cared." He paused. "It took me 30 years to understand that," Bruce smiled. "Took me a while, too." September 2023. Tommy's passing. Tommy Sullivan died on September 15, 2023, at age 77, in his home in New Jersey, surrounded by family. His obituary mentioned his service in Vietnam, his work with the Springsteen organization helping veterans, and his dedication to ensuring other veterans didn't face the struggles he had. Bruce Springsteen issued a statement. "Tommy Sullivan was my friend for 39 years. He taught me what real courage looks like. Not the courage to fight, the courage to keep living when the war follows you home. He was a warrior, a mentor, and a brother. The world is less without him." At Tommy's funeral, Bruce performed. Acoustic guitar, small church in Sayreville, New Jersey, the dead man town where Tommy was born. He sang "Born in the USA," but slower, quieter, stripped of the bombast. Just the words, just the truth. And in the front row, Tommy's children and grandchildren listened to the song that had been written about their father's generation, performed by the man who'd seen their father when no one else would. Tommy's legacy. In Tommy Sullivan's home office, his family found a letter he'd written, dated August 1984, never sent, addressed to Bruce Springsteen. It read, "Dear Bruce, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I'm just a roadie. You're a rock star. But I wanted you to know that song, Born in the USA, you got it right. Every word, every line. That's my life. That's all of our lives. For 14 years, I thought nobody understood. I thought I was invisible. I thought the war had made me into someone nobody wanted to see. And then you saw me. You asked where I served. You listened to my story. You put me on that stage. You gave me my life back. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for telling our story. Thank you for remembering. Your friend, Tommy Sullivan, 101st Airborne, 1969-1971, born in the USA." Tommy Sullivan's story reminds us, sometimes the most important question you can ask is, where did you serve? Sometimes the person doing the humblest work has the most important story. And sometimes a song isn't just entertainment. It's recognition, validation, and hope for people who thought no one was listening. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe to Empowering Stories to honor our veterans. Have you ever discovered that someone's too slow was actually too experienced to rush? Share your story in the comments. Remember, the roadie might be the hero. The song might be their life. Just ask. Honor our veterans. Tell their stories.